So Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world at around 0.7 at the moment, and that's not even recent news. This is a huge shock to the Korean society in general, but also something that everybody recognizes as a really difficult challenge to tackle and a really difficult situation to truly change, because you can't just tell individuals to have more children because it's good for the country that they're living in, even though individuals do need their country to provide a safe and stable environment, and regarding which a steep population decline is probably really alarming. So it's a complex issue, and I'm not an expert, and I certainly can't predict the future for Korea with the total birth rate staying at the current level. The only thing that I know for sure is that a lot of things will change. So we'll see. But before even discussing the declining population in Korea, what I wanted to do in this video is to talk about some reasons why getting married in the first place is becoming more and more of a challenge in this society. Challenges for marriage are more directly related to lower fertility rates in Korea than in many other countries, because in Korea currently, only about 2% of all births are non-marital, so people having children without getting married. So for the vast majority of people, getting married comes first way before they even consider having children. So for your reference, among OECD member nations, the average ratio of non-marital births, people having children without getting married, is 40%. And in France, it's around 60%. So 2% is pretty low. The general social awareness is improving though. In a 2022 survey by the Korean government, as for or regarding couples living together without getting married, 65% of the responses were positive. And for having children without getting married, about 34% of the responses were positive. So people are becoming more and more supportive of non-marital births, but the social infrastructure isn't there yet. By the way, you're watching Talk to Me in Korean, and I'm Hyunwoo. We mainly teach the Korean language through our online courses and books, but we sometimes cover culture topics like this one too. And if you would like to listen to us discuss these culture topics in Korean, we have a large collection of videos on our website. So, back to the main point of this video. Why is it getting harder for Koreans to get married? Or why is it harder to get married in Korea? And as many of you know already, I'm in my 40s and I've been married for 12 years now and I have children. So, some of the things that I will discuss were also applied to my own experience. But at the same time, some of them have a way bigger influence on people who are younger than me now than they did on me. Now, people getting married later and older than before is not unique to Korea, of course. It's a global phenomenon, so I wonder if these factors that I'm going to mention are also common in your countries. Please let me know in the comments, okay? Factor number 1. There is still a strong perception in society that the groom, the man, or the groom's family needs to prepare a house, a place to live in. People's perception is changing overall, and more young people, young couples think that the expenses should be split more evenly, but many people still feel this pressure, I think. Let me explain it just a little more. Okay, so as you know, Korea's modern history has seen the country go through a ton of changes pretty rapidly. So you may think that Koreans are quite good at adapting to big changes and new norms. While that is true, or maybe because it is true, once a certain standard is set or there is a social norm, people tend to kind of hold on to it pretty strongly for a long time, leading to a lot of fixed stereotypical ideas. And once there's a notion of, hey, everybody usually does this in this particular way, there can be a lot of pressure, or in Korean, 눈치, so to speak, from other people on those who do not follow the mainstream way. And there have been definitely a lot of stereotypes and fixed ideas about what is required in a marriage or in a wedding and what a good marriage looks like. Contrast that with the rapidly changing circumstances and you get a pretty complex and difficult challenge. So back to what I was saying about preparing a house, something that many people think is that the groom, the man, needs to prepare a place to live, which is in Korean, 집 장만, and the bride will buy the furniture. 혼수. 혼수 is the stuff that you will put into your 집 when you 장만 it, mixing Korean and English. And why is that? Now, hundreds of years ago in the Joseon dynasty period, 조선시대, and even in the 20th century, when people got married, it was the norm for the woman to move into the man's family's house, the man's parents' house, to be more precise. So they were moving into the father-in-law, mother-in-law, 시아버지 and 시어머니's home, which is called 시가, the house itself, 시가 or 시집. So the term 시집 가다 for women has become synonymous with the term 결혼하다, to get married. So 시집 가다 for women is the same as 결혼하다, which literally means to go to or move to the 시 house. And before then, in the early Joseon dynasty period, it was actually men who moved into their in-laws' house when they got married. The in-laws' house was called 장가. So we also have the term 장가가다 for men, which also means to get married, and that is used even to this day. But for about 400 years or so, women were moving into their groom's family house. So it was the man who sort of prepared the house because they were already living in it. This notion kind of got carried on into the 20th century, 21st century, and combined with the fact that it was still primarily men, like maybe 30, 40 years ago, who were the main breadwinners in households. It took a pretty strong hold in Korean society. So when I was a child, I remember older people, adults, often saying that, almost like a matter of fact, that it's more expensive to raise a son than a daughter. Is it because boys eat more than girls? Maybe, but not because of that, but because when he gets married in the future, the parents will have to somehow buy a house for him and his, wife. So my parents definitely felt this pressure. And when my wife and I got married, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have any money at all, actually, which I think is really natural. If you think about it, my wife was only 25 years old, I think. Yeah, 25 years old back then. I had just started my own business. So I think it would have been shocking if we had any money at all. We didn't even have I think $5,000 in our bank accounts combined. So it didn't bother us at all that my parents were not rich enough to buy an apartment for me or us, but my mother often apologized to me about it even years later, which is absolutely not necessary, but still shows really well how much pressure people feel in general about the boy having to prepare a house, even, today in 2024. People definitely have a more practical approach to marriage than before, and a lot of young people don't think it's the man's obligation to save up enough money to afford an apartment. So more and more young couples these days try to split this responsibility fairly evenly. But even if you want to do that, houses are just too expensive, which leads to factor number 2. Factor 2. House prices are just too high in Korea. And I know this is not unique to Korea, but Korean society is in a really complex situation because people have to think about the practical side of things, which is the crazy high house prices and some strong social stereotypes like men having to prepare a place to live for many people anyway, and an age-old desire for owning a house instead of renting that a lot of Korean families have. Again, I'm not an expert and I'm sure there's a better video out there about why house prices are so high in Korea, but just as a really brief summary, over the past 50 years, many people have seen their friends make a lot of money by simply choosing the right area of Seoul to buy a house in because they were able to, make a huge profit margin on their house when a new road or, major part of infrastructure was developed there. And making money the normal way by working hard and saving up seems quite powerless in comparison to that, if you can say that. So many people wanted their own house to also go up in value like crazy. And this desire was also often, unfortunately, used politically, resulting in many residents in richer areas of Seoul often voting for the party that promises to make their houses or house prices go up even more. On top of that, there's also jeonse, a unique Korean house contract system. Again, jeonse, where you pay a huge sum as key money and you live in the house for 2 years. And the fact that the bank loans for this jeonse contract are so high, up to 500 million won now, has also kind of contributed to house prices going up even further. Many experts say that house prices must go down in order for Korea's marriage and fertility rates to go up again. And I agree, but this is really difficult to change. And I read this quote somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where, but it says, outside of Seoul, young people have no place to work, and in Seoul, young people have no place to live. It's not always the case for everyone, but I think many young people would agree with that statement. Factor number 3, making it difficult for many people to get married in Korea: social media, television, and social expectations. Again, not unique to Korea per se. You already know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of media influence. But I might want to add another thing to consider, which is the school education system. I think it's getting better nowadays, but a lot of Koreans grew up learning to adapt to one standard of evaluation, which is their school records, like how well they did on exams in general. So when most other people are showing just the most fancy and exciting part of their daily life on social media, it's easy for people to think that, oh, okay, so that's how exciting and beautiful my life, my daily life should also be. Or things like, oh, that's the kind of house I need to have if I want to get married. Again, kind of trying to adapt to or match one standard of value. And on top of that, there are some parenting TV shows, 육아 program in Korean, and they feature either the most perfect dads giving the best experiences to their children, or the worst kinds of problems that some parents have with their young children. And usually some experts will come on the show and give them advice, what to do, what not to do. And I personally really can't stand those shows because they just give young people, future parents, the false notion of parenthood, I think, and give them too much fear, in my personal opinion. Whereas in reality, there will be good moments and not so good moments, and that is normal. That's life, right? So all in all, among young people who consume a lot of social media or television, I think the level of confidence they have for their own marriage in the future or having children is quite low, because marriage and parenting aren't the simplest, tasks in life, but they have been made to, marriage and parenting have been made to look way more difficult than they are in reality, especially on social media and in TV shows for young people, at least. So those are the 3 factors that I personally think are contributing to people getting married later or finding it harder to get married than older generations. And another small factor is that there is still a lot of social stigma around dating apps and matchmaking apps, and especially for men in general, including many of my friends around me that I've talked to recently. If they summon up the courage to join a matchmaking app, the entry barrier is quite high because they have to show what kind of car they got, what kind of house they got, their financial status, like where they work, how much money they have, and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's really difficult and complex, right? So I hope you are able to find some interesting information about Korean culture and society through this video. And with everything considered, this is a really tricky situation for Korea, right? And in a capitalist society, the undeniable power of money is a reality that can't be changed. Even though this country is facing this major crisis of population decline, it's unreasonable to expect individual sacrifices or that people change their mindsets without real improvements in systems and conditions, including house prices and social, norms and standards. So I don't think we can expect any immediate changes regarding the ultra low birth rate of 0.7. One thing that we can know for sure is that Korean societies entering a phase that we've never seen before. Like many countries around the world have never seen this kind of thing happen before. We've never had this many adults before in the society who are not married. We've never had this many people in one country in their 40s and 50s who are not raising children. I'm not saying that all of them are making a bad choice altogether because everybody has abundant reasons already, but I'm just curious what kind of changes this will bring to Korean society in general, and also how those changes will affect the social norms and how we live our daily lives in general. And it looks like we'll be able to see those changes pretty soon, in just a couple of decades. Well, that was a somewhat heavy topic, guys. I will be back with another video next time with a lighter topic or a heavier topic if you want. And if there's any topic in particular that you would like to see in this format, please let me know in the comments. And for your regular daily Korean lessons, I will see you on our website at talktomeinkorean.com. 정말 감사합니다. Have a great day.